The president is attempting to reshape the military to a tool of his own domestic control. He wants the military to be something that responds to him, that serves him, and anyone who is not deemed sufficiently loyal or too woke has been stripped from the ranks or fired. And so it's of great concern.
President Trump's decision to deploy the National Guard to Washington, D.C. has caused a firestorm. The president's defenders argue the deployment is necessary to fight crime. His critics say it's just a power grab. This is not, of course, the first time Trump has deployed the National Guard. He did so in Los Angeles earlier this year, where he also deployed the US Marines. Among the political back and forth over Trump's actions, the voices of vets haven't always been heard. Now, obviously, vets are not a monolithic bloc, but some of the more progressive people who have served in our military are alarmed by what Trump is doing. To discuss this, I'm joined today by Janessa Goldbeck. Janessa is the CEO of the Vet Voice Foundation, a group that describes itself as empowering veterans, upholding democratic values and driving change. Janessa herself is a Marine Corps veteran. Janessa, first of all, what's your reaction to what President Trump has done in relation to DC?
Yeah, well, we're very concerned, and I'm hearing this from vets across the country. This is not what the military is supposed to be used for. The National Guard is comprised of young men and women, mostly, who signed up to protect the homeland and respond to things like natural disasters, not be dragged into partisan political fights at the president's whim. So it's really concerning, and I think it has long-standing impacts and repercussions for our civ-mil relations and the standing of the U.S. military writ large in American society.
And to that point about the standing writ large of the American military, I'm assuming that among the broader dangers you see here is this idea that Trump will use the military for his own purposes or for purposes that are seen as obviously partisan. If he were to do that, perhaps in some people's minds he's already doing that, that would pose the kind of dangers you're talking about, right?
Yeah, the president is attempting to reshape the military into a tool of his own domestic control. I think that has been made abundantly clear. We had both the highly partisan political rally at Fort Bragg a few weeks ago, the deployment of National Guard and active duty Marines into Los Angeles after both the mayor and local law enforcement said that it was unnecessary, inflammatory, and escalatory. We've seen the president throw himself a parade using the military to parade through the streets of D.C. on his birthday. And now he's threatening to use the National Guard, not just in Washington, D.C., but in other democratic cities around the country. So this is of great concern because we in the military, veterans, we've sworn an oath to the Constitution, not to one man, not to a political party. And that is really not what this president wants. He wants the military to be something that responds to him, that serves him. And anyone who is not deemed sufficiently loyal or too woke has been stripped from the ranks or fired. So it's of great concern.
And, the polling that I have seen has suggested that lots of institutions in American life have lost a kind of broad approval, have lost legitimacy in the eyes of the public. And the military is the one major exception to that, at least in some of the polling that I have seen. That status of being seen as above politics, you would see that as being endangered by the president's actions, I'm assuming.
Certainly. Yeah. Poll after poll, year after year, veterans and military officers are typically ranked some of the most trusted folks in American society across party lines. And I think a lot of that comes from both people admiring folks being willing to serve their country and potentially, write a blank check that may include their life, as well as the fact that when you serve in the military, you really, no matter where you come from, who you are all fighting together for a common cause or trying to achieve a mission together. And so that gives people who have served this ability to connect with people who might not be just like them and to disagree on certain things, but still find a way to work together. And what I'm really concerned about is the generational harm I think this administration is doing to the armed forces and who serves in them, who's willing to serve in them. We're seeing the Secretary of Defense has really gone after women and people of color in leadership positions. He has banned any sort of efforts at the DoD that help people who might not be a straight white Christian man serve. And I think that is going to have a long-term effect on the makeup of the force. Right now, our military is incredibly diverse and was on track to be, increasingly diverse in years ahead. But I'm not sure that as a young woman, if I was graduating from high school or college today, I would look at the U.S. military and think, well, there's a place I'm going to be welcomed and my career will be able to succeed based on the merits, because there has been this active culture war against anybody who doesn't look like Pete Hegseth currently in uniform.
I want to get back to that point in a second, but first I guess we should address the argument that is made by the president and his defenders, at least as it pertains to DC. And essentially that argument is, well, crime is high in DC. It may have dipped, but it's still high. The National Guard could help curb those crime rates, so this is all fine. How would you respond to that argument?
I think it's completely disingenuous. Look, if the president was serious about attacking crime in Washington, D.C., he could have gone to the mayor via a normal established channel and said, what do you need? What do the D.C. police need in terms of funding? You know, the president and Congress have enormous authority over the district in terms of budget. And there were many mechanisms by which the president could have assisted the D.C. police. But that's not what happened here. Against the wishes of local leaders, the president has unilaterally made a decision to deploy troops to put the DC police under the command of Attorney General Pam Bondi. You know, I know a lot of folks in law enforcement, and I can tell you, I don't think there's a whole lot of excitement about your authority being taken away by a partisan political figure. And so I just think that, you know, that attacking crime has been a priority of the mayors, and it's a priority of the DC police. Nobody wants crime in the district, certainly, but it is at a historic low. And if the president were serious about it, he could have gone through the established channels and found a way to support efforts on the ground instead of coming in and really doing what is simply political theater.
Janessa, finally, I do want to get back to that point you raised a couple of moments ago, which is broader than the DC matter, because I think what you were suggesting is that there is a conscious effort to make the military less welcoming to people who are not, well, essentially straight white men and perhaps of a conservative disposition. You think that is really happening? And if so, how alarming is that to you?
Certainly. I mean, we've heard it directly from the secretary himself. We've seen the firing of senior leaders, women, people of color, or people who are deemed not sufficiently loyal to the president. The firing of inspectors general, the complete elimination of policies that help people of color serve. For instance, there is a policy that allows Black men not to shave if they have a particular skin condition that is unique to Black men. That policy has been rescinded, which means that we're going to lose quality, talented, honorable service members because of a skin condition. All of these things are blatant, they're out front, and it is the express goal of the Secretary of Defense to make a military that reflects sort of a 1970s cartoonish version of what he thinks the military should be, when in reality, what makes our military strong and the most professional fighting force in the world is that we have competent, exceptional people from all walks of life, from all backgrounds, bringing those skill sets to the fight based on merit, based on their performance. And now we're going to lose out on a lot of really talented people who are either going to get out or not sign up because they don't see themselves in Pete Hegseth's military.
Janessa Goldbeck, CEO of the Vet Voice Foundation, thanks for joining us on the show.
Thank you for having me.